I now know what's going to happen in the presidential election. I do. I know that's a heady thing to say, but we have seen a repeated cycle long enough for me to tell you what I think is going to happen in this election. I'm Chris Cuomo. Welcome to the Chris Cuomo Project. Now, the only game I'm playing with you here is I'm saying what will happen, not necessarily who will win. But I believe this is just as instructive a point, because if you're going to follow the race, what matters most, what has taken so long, and I'll explain why in this election cycle, is to distill, to isolate, to identify what is this race about? What is it turning on? That's why we always love the October surprise. Why? Because we are desperate as consumers and arbiters and sellers and marketers of our politics to make it about something specific. This peccadillo, this allegation, these hostages, this war, this tax policy, something that defines what brought the most people out to vote for or against that proposition. And I now know what that proposition is. Who will win? The candidate that gets more people to believe in their side of the following proposition. One more step into context of why I think this. Why are the polls so freaky tight, within the margin of error, all over the place? Why are places that are assumed, like Iowa, to be a blow-away Republican win? Why is the margin shrinking? Well, part of it is that Trump has been trying his damnedest to lose, right? Now, I believe the election is his to lose, and I'll explain why in a second. But not that that he definitely will win, but that he has an advantage based on the state of play that he is intent on blowing. This guy had someone shoot him in the head and did not expand his base. This man just had another guy poke an AK-47 at him within 2 months. And he misplayed it. That's on him because he is missing the proposition of what this election is about. The polls are very tight because we have about bottomed out in the two-party reductive battle to the bottom. Everything is about dividing us. Everything is us, them. Why? It works for the parties. Why is Kamala Harris's pitch to you? Trump is a threat to democracy. It's another way of saying he is worse. Fear him. Okay? Why is Trump's allegation she's a commie? Socialist isn't even enough anymore. Full commie. Ironic that he also defends Putin at the same time? Yes, because what does it instruct you to? It instructs you to the point that this is bullshit. He's not really afraid of communism, because if he were, he'd hate Putin. You see what I'm saying? So what is it? It's a way of saying she's worse. And that's why we're divided, because that's all you're being conditioned to. So of course the polls are going to be really tight. It's a binary proposition. And it's not like love versus hate, where you would hope that love would manifest itself in a majority, right? This is which is worse. It is inherently negative. It's a suggestion of relative suckiness. So of course it's going to be really tight. You want a pea sandwich or a poo sandwich? Eek. I don't want to really pick either of those. This is where it takes you. Now, here's the proposition that will determine this election. It is, ready? Enragement versus engagement. Those are the dueling propositions, okay? Explain. Enragement. If this is a straight grievance election, look at our history. I think it's 10 out of 46 presidents haven't won a second term, assuming they weren't killed. You see almost in every case that the overwhelming atmosphere of the election was negativity. about what was going on that was wrong. Let's take a recent example. Trump blew it on the pandemic, okay? Blew it. Was unrelentingly chaotic and, the mendacity factor, the lying. He created an atmosphere of such toxicity that he was doomed to the same. Carter, the economy, gas prices, the hostage crisis, bad, bad, bad. Atmosphere of negativity, of grievance. Now, you could say, yeah, but there's always grievance in an election. Of course, grievance is always an aspect of a campaign, but it's about how dominant is it, okay? And if this election stays about grievance, what people are afraid of, what they're angry about, this is Trump's election to lose. Now, why don't I say Trump wins? One, because I don't know which of these two propositions is going to win out, and it could go either way. And frankly, Trump has the easier burden to carry because we are in a really negative space. We are dominated by the social media dynamic, which is magnified fringe voices. And they are by definition angry, okay? Animus is the rule, okay? Not the exception. So it is his to lose. Now, he is trying his damnedest to lose. Why? Because he's trying his damnedest to isolate and concentrate his base. Everything he's doing is almost designed to not appeal to independent, undecided voters. He's almost impossibly negative and irrational. And what he is prescribing to fix things, I'm going to round up all illegal people in this country, everyone who's here illegally. Nobody believes you can do that. Nobody believes you should do that. Not really, not independents, not critical thinkers. And I'm not saying that that means you're about open borders. That's stupid, reductive, battle to the bottom, zero-sum bullshit. Just because I don't think you should round up or try to round up 11 million people, it's also called declaring war, doesn't mean I'm for open borders. Who would be for open borders? The Pope. Great. Let him stay in Rome. That's not what we're about here. You got to have borders. It's got to be secure. It's not fair to the people coming across otherwise, and it's not fair to the people who are already here. It's not fair to what we want to be about as a country. But grievance is the rule of the day. And as such, Trump has the advantage, which is why the polls are so close. This man has no business being in the hunt for the presidency of this country. He has done everything wrong that you can do, okay? And yet, he is right there. Why? Power of grievance. The power of people's disaffection and desperation to disrupt what they hate, to use a word I do not like. Hate, that word, hate. That's the secret, by the way. I should probably do a whole podcast on this. You got to stop thinking that the people who support Trump are like Trump, that they speak like Trump, that they act like Trump. They don't. They want to hire Trump to do a dirty job. They want him to be a virus to the political corpus. They want him to disrupt, to destroy, to demean those that they disrespect and dislike, the system that they distrust and despise. They want someone to do what they believe has been done to them and that they cannot do themselves. That's why they don't care that he exhibits terrible behavior, because they're putting him into a terrible place. If you're sending somebody into the jungle, do you really care if they're a savage? You see what I'm saying? And you have to understand it that way. You may not agree, you may not accept, you may not like, but that's what it is. And if it stays grievance, if it's about enragement, and that's why this guy responds to someone pointing an AK-47 at him by trying to get people to do the same thing to his opponent. Who does that? Somebody who believes in outrage and enraging people, in grievance. That's what he's about. Look, even his slogan, "Make America Great Again." What does that mean? We're not great. He says this is a failing country. I disagree 100%. But I'm also not running for office. I'm just saying that I believe his rhetoric alone should disqualify him, but not if we are overwhelmed with an atmosphere of grievance. Support for the Chris Cuomo Project comes from AG1. Listen, if you know me and you know the podcast, you know how I feel about AG1. But I got a limited time offer for you, all right? $67 value. As you know, AG1 is the real deal for me. Just one scoop, and for me, some warm water, but you can put it in whatever you want. And that's it. And that's my morning routine, all right? Literally. What can it take you? A minute? You get the vitamins, the minerals, the pre and probiotics, the adaptogens for you big brains, and more, all in a scientifically blended to make sure that it gets absorbed formula that is AG1, which I've been taking for years. AG1 is daily self-care for me, and it should be for you. I know that I'm doing something right when I start the day with AG1. So, start with AG1, notice a difference for yourself. It's a great first step. It's an investment in your health, and I think that matters. Try it today, and you will get their special offer of 10, yes, 10 free travel packs. Oh yeah, they upped it. And a bottle of Vitamin D3K2 with your first purchase at drinkag1.com/CCP. That is the $67 value I was telling you about. You get it for free if you go to drinkag1.com/CCP today. Check it out. Support for the Chris Cuomo Project comes from RadioActive Media. Business owners, CMOs, gotta grow, right? How? How is the question. People plateau pretty easily on social media. I'm one of them. Online efforts. Sometimes they start right, but all of a sudden they go wrong. Why not tap into podcasts? Why not tap into radio? What do we know? In the U.S., audio reaches more than 270 million people every week. That's more than social media and digital combined. My friends at RadioActive Media, they know the recipe to launch, optimize, and scale performance by building compelling audio campaigns, and those campaigns can work. They got a personal approach, they know the medium in a way that few others can match. For advertisers who want to reach the right audience with the right hosts and programs, you got to speak with RadioActive Media. Learn how you can experience the power of audio marketing by utilizing the strength of text messaging, as well as audio, message integration. And as a result of combining, you generate a return on investment as high as 7 to 1. Now, I'll give you a little bit of a deal. Text my name, Chris, to 511-511. Heck, you can even buy spots on my show. All right, if you're a mid-sized company or a well-funded startup with a monthly budget as low as 5 figures, RadioActive Media can help. They believe in the power of radio so much, they even use it themselves. Right here, right now, right? That's what's happening here, is I'm promoting them for helping me. Text my first name, Chris, C-H-R-I-S, to 511-511. Chris to 511-511. Or you can do it on the web. Go to radioactivemedia.com. Text rates? Sure, it's worth it. Enragement versus engagement. Notice I'm not going dark versus light. Why? I don't see it that way. It's not good versus evil. It's not love versus hate. That's not really what it is. Because there are a lot of people who are voting for Trump who absolutely love this country, who absolutely believe in love, who do not want hate, who don't condone, to use a stupid word that we love in politics, who are not about evil. They're not bigots. They're not prejudiced. They're desperate for better. And they think everything is rigged and dirty. So that's not what it is. It's enragement versus engagement, meaning what? That you get more people that prefer the proposition of doing something about it that seems calculated to possibly get us to a better place. Because people aren't stupid. They know it's all about Congress. They know that in reality, neither of these people probably make a huge difference to your life. You'll say it now during campaign season. But if you look at Republicans and Democrats, not only are many of our preconceptions false, but the needle just doesn't move that way much in either direction. You know, it turns out, well, Democrats, they're going to tax and spend. Well, the economy, the stock market, the job market, absolutely 100%. You cannot say I'm wrong to suggest that Democrats have not been worse on those two metrics than Republicans. And almost every indicia that you're going to look to as a collection of factors shows that it does better under Democrats. Why? You'll get varying ideas about that. They expand government, they put more money into the economy, whatever you want to explain it or rationalize it or excuse it as. So what we say during the election doesn't really translate into what happens in the governance, right? That's why my father loved the expression, you campaign in poetry, you govern in prose. Meaning what? You talk shit now, and then you do what you have to do, which may not be what you were talking shit about. Engagement is getting more people, specifically independents, to believe that Harris has a chance of making things better. Wait a minute, why doesn't that apply to Trump? Because that's not really his sell. What are you saying? Great again. But inherently, he is about harnessing the outrage and anger towards what is. He does not really have great plans, plausible plans, likely plans to get to better. Rounding up immigrants, it's not going to improve our situation any more than the wall would in terms of something that's really feasible, plausible, that's going to happen. Our economy, another tax cut. I mean, if you don't target it the right way like he did the last time and you couple it with grotesque spending as he did, that's not going to get us to a better place. Just look at the numbers of his last election. Well, but he's going to lower gas prices. That's a promise. It's not a probability. Certainly not the way you say drill, baby, drill. I've explained to you numerous times, we are not drill, baby, drill away from lower gas prices. We don't have that much control over our domestic market. It's a world market. We're already drilling more than we ever have. Most of the restrictions they're talking about are on public lands, not private lands. Private lands are fracking and doing all these other things at record levels. So much so that the producers, the suppliers, are cutting back because the price is already coming down for crude. Just look it up. Crude oil prices are coming down. So what are suppliers going to do? They're going to make less. Why? Because that's how you enhance the demand-supply ratios. So he's just feeding you a fiction. Enragement. I'm really pissed off about this. Everything's wrong. We must punish. Engagement. I'm going to pick somebody who I think is going to lower the temperature and try and get us to a better place. Now, is Harris that? Not as much as Biden was in the last election. Why? Because everything about him spoke to less drama, less crazy, less talk, less, which is what we wanted. Okay? And interestingly, Trump is proof of concept here. That was a grievance election. People wanted punishment for the administration, and they got it. Will that be what they want now? Well, militating in favor of that. You have some low-level culture war fruit, but I don't really think that matters. You have pain in the pocketbook. And yes, there is a story to be told that we're doing better in terms of most other places. Major economies recovering or not recovering from the pandemic. But do you really care if at the end of the day things cost more? Probably not. And that's something that Harris has to deal with. And in a really real way, which is why they're pushing the Trump is a despot thing, because they're trying to make something more important than your pocketbook. And I don't know that that works. And I don't know that they should even be playing at it, frankly, because I don't think they beat Trump in a battle to the bottom of grievance. I do not think they win that. He's a despot versus you're a commie, I think she loses. And not because I think she's a commie. I think that's absurd. I also think the idea that he's a despot is absurd. I don't think he has the strategy, or the ambition, or the intelligence to be a despot. I don't think he does. I think he just wants to win because he thinks that's cool. I don't believe that it's about patriotism and getting things done. Look at his last administration. He had plenty of chances to prove that he could transcend politics, that he could be different, that he would change the money, he would drain the swamp. He did none of those things. So Enragement versus engagement. That is the proposition that will determine this election. We're not a peccadillo away. We're not a scandal away. We're past that. We're so exhausted by the flaws and failures after cancel culture and Me Too and all of the investigations and the impeachments and the trials and the prosecutions and the race baiting and the murders and the policing and everything. Everything is so bad, and it's always a new bad thing. The wars. We're exhausted. We're exhausted by it. Now, that is a double-edged sword. On the one side, then there must be an opportunity for somebody to come in and pitch something else that makes you feel relief and gets you to a better place. Yeah, but you're also conditioned to that negative space. It's where you are. It's where your head is. It's what you see all around you. It's social media. It's the media. It's the politicians. Guy points a gun at Trump. He says, this is on the Democrats for saying I'm a threat to the democracy. By the way, they're a threat to the democracy. Who does that? If it's wrong that they're doing that to you, why would you just do it to them? Because I do to them what they do to me. That's enragement. That's enragement. Look, we see the Democrats playing that. In my response to Trump having a gun pointed at him again and saying we got to be better than that I don't like what comes out of his face. I think it is beneath what we should expect from a president. I think it's disqualifying for him in the presidency. And I find it unlikable in substance and in his person. But the idea that someone would want to take him out and that so many of you, thousands of you, responded by saying he deserves it, you're no better than what you oppose. You're no better than what you oppose. And you will lose this election on that basis. Who hates who more? You lose. Who can change what people actually matter about? That's the space for Democrats to win. Support for the Chris Cuomo Project comes from Ground News. Now listen, I'm a news guy. Why am I pitching a different source? Because I don't play that game. That's why. If something can help you, I want you to know about it. And Ground News is very helpful. Why? Because Ground News helps you curate information that you can trust. It's a website and app that helps you make sense of the news by gathering related articles from around the world in one place so you can compare coverage. It does the homework for you. Context about the source. Does it have a political bent? Is it reliable? Who owns them? Ground News gives you that information. What details do people emphasize and why? Ground News lets you compare how outlets from the left, right, and just who's known to be reasonable, how they're all covering and each is covering the same story. Go to groundnews.com/Chris to get 40% off the Ground News Vantage plan, which will unlock access to all of their features. I think it's a genuinely cool, essential tool in today's world. They're doing important work, and I hope you'll check them out. Groundnews.com, Ground is ground/Chris. And then you hook me up and I hook you up. Support for the Chris Cuomo Project comes from Oracle. Oracle is looking ahead. AI is going to be the future. Sure, we don't know how, we don't know how much, but we know it's coming. Storming every industry. Billions are being put into preparing for what the unknown may hold, so buckle up. Problem is, what does AI require? Speed, processing power. So how are you supposed to get in on that if you're not one of the biggest? Upgrade. Next generation of the cloud. Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. You'll be hearing a lot more about this. OCI. OCI is a single platform for your infrastructure, database application development, and AI needs. OCI has 4 to 8 times the bandwidth of other clouds. 4 to 8 times. So you get one consistent price instead of variable regional pricing. And of course, nobody does data better than Oracle. I mean, they built their brand for a reason. So you can train your AI models at twice the speed and less than half the cost of other clouds through OCI. If you want to do more, spend less. Like who? Uber, 8x8, Databricks, Mosaic. Free test drive of OCI at oracle.com/CCP. 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 care about AI, check it out. And I'll give you one more insight into why I'm so confident about this now. What we saw in the switch from Biden to Harris. Once you get past the theatricality of how Democrats just found religion on Kamala Harris when they didn't have a nice thing to say about her 6 months before Biden dropped out, people get distracted by that. That's politics. What are they supposed to do? Not back their own person, not lionize their own person, not exaggerate the virtues of their own person? Right? The Republicans didn't do the same thing with Trump. You heard Governor Sununu of New Hampshire say on television 100 times, including on my show at News Nation, look, I don't like the guy. I don't want to vote for him, but I'm not voting for the Democrat. That's the binary battle to the bottom. It's disgusting. I'm not saying Sununu is. I actually believe he's a face of our future. But that's the game. That's why I hate the game. I don't hate people. I don't do that. I don't invest any kind of energy in that. It doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't serve me well. You make your own choices. But I can hate ideas. I can hate propositions. So I hate that. But what happened when Biden got out? Why did Harris get the spike? Because of what I'm describing as this dual proposition. Enragement versus engagement. There were a lot of people who didn't want to vote for Trump but could not vote for Biden. Why? He was not engaging them. It's not enough to beat Trump by having people vote against something. And yes, I know this is a trickier, higher bar, especially in a society that is consumed with negativity. I know. I'm not saying it's fair. My therapist says fair is the only 4-letter word. I think he's right. But I still think it's the reality. And when Harris came in, she got a bump. Why? Because people are desperate to vote for a black woman in America for president? I don't buy that. I think it's despite it, not because of it. And look, we can talk about that. The idea that race doesn't play a role in our politics, I think, is nonsense. I think the fact that race isn't a sensitivity that compels judgment by way too many Americans is nonsense. Of course it is. So why would she get the bump? Well, because people want to default to engagement. They want somebody who they believe has a chance to make a difference in a positive way. This is America, okay? It's not Venezuela. It's not the Middle East where people can cotton to despots and to harshness. It's not us. We don't like bullies. I mean, we like strength and we like aggression and we like things like that, but we like sweet strength. We want to be the good guys. We don't take solace in being the bad guys. Not yet, anyway. It was because she represents engagement. And that energized a group of people who were basically sitting it out or not sure what to do because Biden wasn't doing that. And she represents that. Fair, unfair, right, wrong, true, not true. This is for the voters to decide. But as a proposition, enragement versus engagement will determine this election. What choice more people make in the places that matter, because remember, we're within the margin of error overall, which is very scary to the Democrats. Why? If Democrats don't win the popular vote by 3 to 4 points, they don't win the election. I know it's not based on the popular vote. Spare me your attacks. But historically, again, look it up. If Democrats don't win by 3 or 4, because look, Hillary Clinton beat Donald Trump in the popular vote. She got crushed in the Electoral College. We're not changing that system ever, let alone between now and the election. So it is what it is. Being in a dead heat with Trump is bad for Harris. Now, could this be a different election where it's so tight overall, but she wins by a nudge in the places that matter? Yeah, it could be. And I have not seen that in my time covering elections, quarter century. This could be that. Why? Because every once in a while you have a black swan event. Every once in a while you have an outlier. Every once in a while you have an aberration. Every once in a while you have something that is different than the norms. It happens. It's one of the beauties of democracy. It's not fixed, right? And you're within the margin of error in all the places that matter. So this is very tight. And the proposition is going to come down to which choice do more people make in the places that matter. Enragement, I'm pissed off, and I want that to be known and felt by the people in power now, which is Harris. Or I choose to engage. And I want to put somebody in there who isn't just a loudmouth echoing every kind of animus he can think of. I want somebody who's got a chance of working with other people and figuring something out. And she is more of that than he is, and I'm there. And if independents who are undecided, because I believe one of two groups swings this election. Independents who are undecided, that could go either way. I think Harris should have an edge with them, and we're seeing that in the polling, but we'll see. Or women en masse. Now, we are not seeing that, even though she has gotten a bump with women. I don't know yet if there are enough married women who will vote on the basis of having had a right, a protection taken from them with the Dobbs decision. And yes, Trump hurt himself. Again, he's trying to lose this election by saying that women and Democrats wanted Roe taken away. I don't know who told him that, but that is dumb for him to be saying. If they decide, if women decide, a majority of our population, a majority of our voting population, to make their witness on that issue, Trump is done. But I don't know that that's what happens. It is an explanation for what happened in the midterms in 2022. But what I am sure of is the proposition that will determine this election. Is the country in the mood for enragement or engagement? What do you think? I'm Chris Cuomo. Thank you for subscribing and following the Chris Cuomo Project. Thank you for joining the Substack, subscribing, $5 a month. Get the podcast first, get it ad-free. Get my doctorate, Dr. Robin Rose, telling you about long COVID, how to treat it at home, what you can do to increase your longevity and the quality of your fitness. What I'm doing for myself, my walk and talks about what I've learned about philosophy and what I do and don't practice, which hopefully you'll do better than I do, all there for $5 a month. That's a deal. And I'll see you on News Nation, 8p and 11p every weekday night. Thank you for the support you've shown to me there and everywhere. I appreciate you. I'm doing this with you, and I'm doing it for you. So let's get after it.